You are listening to Processing Trauma Out Loud, conversations about trauma and healing from two women who are doing the work.
Hey everyone, this is Kandace and Sher with Processing Trauma Out Loud. Sher, we are in another series, and the series that we're in right now is on the topic of shame. And I mentioned before that we have done other episodes on the topic of shame, but we just believe that shame is such a huge factor for those of us who have suffered through complex childhood trauma. And last week, I made a statement that you brought up when we met earlier this morning that you thought maybe you would like to start with exploring what I said. And so since I'm still having a hard time remembering, can you just share that?
Last week, I shared about the experience that I had when we were at retreat and how I had this moment when I felt this overwhelming shame and I wanted to just run from the room. And I was called to look into the face of each person there. And you made the point last week when we were recording, you made the comment that the weight of love is greater than the weight of shame. And in that moment, when the weight of shame was just taking me out, and I was invited to look into each face of love, that the weight of the love was so much greater than the weight of shame. And that within just a minute, my body was regulated. I was present, I could breathe, and I was ready to go further. And I think the awareness that the weight of love is, I've said this many times, the weight of love is the most powerful, or the force of love is the most powerful force on the face of the earth. And it's transformative. And when we get it in huge, lavish experiences, and even when we get it in just flashes that come as surprises, the power of love is transformational.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I will work with a client for several months, maybe even a year, and there's goodness going on in them experiencing my love for them. But when they're ready, we usually do move into the transition of story group. Now, some people are ready right away, but some people need a while to build trust. And so one way that I explain it is, it's wonderful to have that one-on-one where you're experiencing being known, being seen, being loved, being held in safety and building security. But there is just more power in more love, right? And it's not only that a story group is about you come and share your story and let the eyes of others, the voice of others, let love be stronger than the shame you've lived in. But I like to say, and you have gifts too.
Yeah.
And that when you show up, your love, as you're opening up to receiving love, there's so much beauty in like, oh my gosh, this love that I have to give others is what I'm here for.
Yeah.
It's just so beautiful.
Yes, and I want to say this is not exactly the direction we were planning to go, but I feel like, okay, I think it's a good direction. We were talking a little bit about the power of being in a group and how we've been in we have two main groups that we're in that they're secure, they're communities that are very secure. And I was commenting that in many ways, there's so much about one another that we don't know in these groups. Like we've gone to some very deep places. We've gone to some very dark and painful places, but there are a lot of things about each other that we really don't even know. And we were making the comment about how, but we know that one another have encountered evil in ways that have been devastating, and at times where we have felt that, we were on the verge of being taken out, that we just didn't even know if we could, survive, and when you know the attacks of evil like that, and you know that the people sitting around the circle know that, there are a lot of things that don't have to be said. There are a lot of things that don't have to be pointed out, because you actually literally have this understanding of, I don't have to tell you that you're bad. I know how much you already know that, how much that has dictated a lot of your life. What I want to be able to tell you is how much you're loved, how much you're valued, how I want to hear more from you, and I want to see more of your gifts. And yeah, it's just a place that's really unique. And we talk on here, and we encourage people often to do story work groups. But yeah, it's the place where a lot of magic really does happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think in our first episode, I mentioned, and I'm thinking in the context of what happens in story group when we show up in the shame of what's been done to us, because we've all had shameful things done to us. Sometimes the things that we've done out of living in survival and that pain, and not dealing with the root of really what's going on. And then sometimes just the pain or the shame of association, which I shared a story about that, growing up in a small town and hearing a little girl say that she couldn't spend the night at our house. So the way that shame enters into our life is varied and comes at a very young age for those of us who have had complex childhood trauma. But when we show up in these groups, it doesn't matter. It matters, but no matter where the shame is, it's being addressed with love. And so even if, I feel like this is something I want to say, because we talked about this. If you haven't experienced this, and there's a part of you that's just thinking, well, what about those things that you need to take accountability for? Or kind of like what you just said, like, we already show up in so much shame. Like, we don't have much of a resistance of thinking we're bad or dangerous or there's something wrong with us. The antidote isn't to keep piling that onto someone.
Yeah.
It's helping them get that off through the power of love.
Yeah.
And so I know for me, like, the power of love, that I believe real love never fails, was not saying my patterns or my survival was okay. It was more of saying, this isn't who you are.
Yeah.
And here's how we see you.
Yeah.
And, and we won't go into a lot of this, but it's the renaming.
Yeah.
Trauma lies to us.
Yeah.
People have spoken words over us. Our own behavior has lied to us. And it's only the power of love and truth, speaking the truth in love, that sets us free.
Yeah. Because when we experience people naming us, or us naming ourselves, because we're also pretty good at bringing accusation against our own selves. And there's a lot that I could say about that sentence right there, that there are a lot of ways that we bring accusation against our own self. But what I want to say is, when we have been named by someone or by an experience that happened, and we took on some level of belief that I'm bad, or my anger is dangerous, or whatever it may be, and we agree, we make an agreement that that is true, we are hooked.
Yeah.
And getting free from that hook that we have made an agreement with, that is what can be a lifelong hook until we encounter love that says, I'm not agreeing with that. I'm not agreeing that that is who you are, because in my experience with you, my experience of you, I don't believe that's true. And that can feel startling. It can feel surprising and startling, like, well, like, what do you mean? Like, that's been true of me my whole life. And then when they say, oh, I don't believe it has been, it's like, oh, okay. If not, then what does that mean for me? And it sets our feet on a different path.
Yeah. And I think it's the weeding out. It may be true that you've had these certain patterns or these behaviors, but it's not true of who you are, your identity. And this is the work. The work is dismantling the lies of the patterns, the behaviors that are saying this is who you are. Because as soon as we start to see and believe who we truly are and who we were created to be, and the good power we were given to bring transformation to ourselves and to help facilitate that in the whole world, we will begin living a whole different life.
Yeah.
We will begin speaking a different language.
Yeah.
We will begin loving in ways that we were always worthy of being loved, and it's because we're starting to receive it from those who are naming the truth about us.
Yeah. And last week we talked a little bit about I talked a little bit about how I've always believed that anger is so bad, and that I grew up really under a curse of my mother, that because my dad was so angry that anytime I showed anger as a child, my mother would say, this proves that you are just like him. And so for me, I really worked hard to never show anger. And so I developed this style of relating where I was the good girl. I really became the good girl. And I tried very, very hard to do everything right and to never misspeak or never misstep, to not show up in ways that would be offensive, or to never, never, ever say something that expressed anger. Mm-hmm. And now I'm in a context of people who are inviting my anger forward and saying, like, we see your anger when you fight for us. We see your anger when you call out our glory where sin has tried to bring us down. And it's been such a powerful renaming for me, or reframing of who am I and these are words that have been spoken over me, so I'm still a little uncomfortable saying, but who am I as a woman who is powerful, and powerful in anger for good? And I'm discovering this, and it's been kind of it's been a good discovery.
Mm-hmm. Well, as someone who has journeyed very closely with you in your stories and in the healing of trauma, and individually, one-on-one with you in groups, I've witnessed your response to being called up and into your good anger. But before that happened, I also witnessed your deep grief over getting free from that lie that had its tentacles, if you will, around you for decades, Sher.
Yeah.
And I just, there's a passage, I think it's in Isaiah, that talks about he will restore the years that the locusts have eaten or taken.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just want to say that however long you have left, I am so thankful that you are going to be using your good anger and your good voice and your good body
Yeah.
to live out your calling as a woman who loves ferociously, who sees so well. I get to be a recipient of that. And I'm so grateful for that. But I'm just glad that I'm going to get to witness your rising, if you will.
You are witnessing it. And I want to bring us back to, you mentioned the word tentacles, and would you like to kind of share talk about it? You did a sketch of some of the ways that the tentacles of shame have affected your life. And I wonder if we can just come back to this for a little bit. And for those who are watching on YouTube, you get to see Kandace's sketch. But for those not, Kandace, just describe it so that our listeners can understand.
Well, I'm not an artist like Cher, but I want to give a little back. I had my own coaching session a week or so ago with my coach, and I had this kind of image of this octopus in my mind, that seeing each tentacle in some way of all these ways shame has tried to take me out. Okay. And in different ways and through different means. And I also didn't know much about an octopus. So I began doing some research, and they're actually a very brilliant animal. And there's just some interesting things that it was said about an octopus. But so as I was looking that up, I just started drawing this image of an octopus, and I started writing things down in ways that shame has tried to shut me down. And I'm not going to go over each one of them. The point of this is being that we're talking about the weight of love being greater than the weight of shame. I have been in spaces of radical, unconditional love since like 2019 now. And I wish I could tell you that in the first year, I'm where I'm at now. No, it's taken me 5-6 years to say, in each of these ways that shame has tried to take me out, love is winning. Like love, the power of love.
Yeah.
The power of love has called me up. It's called me out. It's called me into. And sure, this is just something that I don't know when we'll do our last podcast episode together. I don't know when. But I don't think that we will ever stop saying that love is more powerful than shame, and that shame blocks love. And this is why we do this. We're in a war against shame in our own stories and shame in the stories of those that we love.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I'm sensing you're not going to talk about what's written on those 8 tentacles there. But the point that I would like to make is that shame attacks us very specifically according to the particularities of our story. Mm-hmm. And so the traumas or the dynamics of hurt and pain that we experienced in childhood are the very areas where shame gets lodged and can create a bondage, a chain, a oppression that can last decades. I mean, that has lasted decades for me and for us. And so we're really serious about these aspects of discovering where is shame lodged in our stories, and where do we need and I I feel the agony as I'm going to say this, and we've said it before, but Where do we need to expose our shame to eyes of love so that we can be held in a space where the things that we feel are the most bad or unacceptable or disgusting or worthy of rejection about us, when we can bring those very things forward and name them with a person who does not turn away, a person who looks deep into our face and listens and hears us and offers attunement and speaks love over us and shows up the next time like they didn't run away. Like, this is where the substantialness of love disarms and disentangles our bodies, souls, and spirits from the tentacles of shame that are desperately trying to pull our head underwater and just squeeze the breath out of us. Mm-hmm. And to that, we are saying, hell no. Like, hell no. We and everyone around us that whose voice, who is to where our voice can go, we are saying, no, you are worthy of the eyes of love seeing you and drawing you up and into places of flourishing.
Yeah. So good, Sher. I want to go back and listen to that again. I'm excited for our next couple episodes that we have coming up. We're going to have a couple, at least 2 or 3 more episodes on shame. And we have a guest that's going to be joining us who has been a part of dismantling the shame in our lives. And that we're excited for our listeners to just get to hear her voice again.
Yeah. So happy to have Patria with us. And
surprise.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, we can edit that out then.
No, that's fine. But good to be with you today.
You too, Kandace. And I agree. I think I want to go back. We talked about some things that feel really important for my heart today. And yeah, so good to be with you. Love you so much.
Love you too.